fight against, but the way I try to explain that is, so let's go back to the garden analogy. If you come upon a rose in a garden, you look upon it and it's so beautiful because it's such a rose.
Yes.
Because it smells like a rose and it looks like a rose. And the more it looks and presents as a rose, the more we appreciate it. So the same is true for us. The more we become our unique individual who we're created to be, the more fully alive we are, and that's the intention of God for us. Yeah. That's my belief.
And this doesn't mean just looking in the mirror and trying to assess, do I have another line here, or have I gained some weight, or what's with my hair? This is not on the outside.
Absolutely.
This is trying to look inward. Our guest today is Yvonne Lucia. She is a registered nurse who has a Master of Divinity degree, and she is, now I saw the word, and I'm going to pick up your brochure here, the art of sacred companioning.
Right.
I love you certainly have a wonderful turn of a phrase when you've described your work. To talk about the ways that people can get in touch through self-reflection and writing or drawing. You know, coloring books are big these days. And on the one hand, it's a good thing we have two hands. On the one hand, choosing the colors and staying within the lines, there's a discipline there, and that's wonderful. But what about doing away with the preconceived lines and just drawing without judgment, without being self-critical?
Well, first of all, let me say that I do appreciate the allure of coloring books, and in fact, I invite people to engage with that activity as a way of getting themselves into a meditative state, because that's what happens when the mind becomes focused on something. When you're doing something physical like that in those tiny little spaces, it disengages the monkey mind, and it truly does invoke a meditative state. So in that regard, I think they're wonderful tools. If you're talking about, sometimes that can be a reason for people to avoid their own inherent creativity, because they think, I can't draw, I can't this, I can't that. The type of art that I invite people to has nothing to do with creating a beautiful product. It's about engaging with the process, with the expression. A person can learn a lot about how they even go about something. For example, if I give you a blank piece of paper and I put some paints out and I say, okay, Jeff, I want you to just pretend you're in kindergarten and take a color that you like and start painting. Okay, some people, they'll just dive right in. Some people will just look at their paper. The way a person approaches the invitation to creativity, exactly. So that's the kind of thing that I use it for. It's not so much about what are you going to make. It's really more, it's about the process.
The journey is the destination.
Yes, exactly.
When folks come and engage in that process, what are those aha moments like? Without betraying a confidence, can you tell a story about someone who really just had that aha moment? Well,
I could use myself as an example.
Sure.
One of the ways that,
if you give yourself permission,
one of the ways that people can engage with creativity if they're afraid and they think they're not creative is through collage, which is a wonderful creative process, but you don't have to be able to draw. You are drawn to images that are already in magazines or whatever, and cut some out and assemble something new. Okay, so there's a process I work with that's called soul collage, which is a kind of a specific way of using it. And for many years I was told that I'm all over the place, I have too many interests, I'm scattered, blah, 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 blah. So once I was doing a collage about my creative self, and for some reason I was drawn to a picture of a platypus. And I put the platypus on my paper and I'm like, it was so strange. I don't even know anything about a platypus. I later went to do some research and discovered that the platypus is known as God's mistake or God's eclectic creature because it has fur, it has a bill, it has duck-like feet. In other words, it's a conglomeration of all these different things. And it was the perfect metaphor for myself as a creative being.
Right.
I never could have put that together, but picking that image and putting it in a collage gave me a profound insight into what was true about myself.
It's okay to be an odd duck.
Yes. I have suggested to people that there be a 12-step program for platypus people.
I want to see that brochure.
Because I do know several others, and we struggle with that same kind of thing. Oh, I'm too scattered. But this is an illustration of doing this kind of work. It helps us accept ourselves as who we are and the individuals that we are.
Sure. Wonderful. Another term, you used contemplative creativity, which is pretty much what we've been talking about.
Right. Yeah, so I invite people into creative processes because of my own experience. I know that they induce a contemplative state. When, again, it's when we're becoming focused on doing something with our hands. A lot of people who knit or crochet will tell you that for them becomes a spiritual practice because of the same, it has been studied and it has been physiologically proven that, whatever the correct terminology for the brain waves are induced when we're engaging in these kinds of activities. So that's what the invitation is.
Yeah. And through these activities, we could call that prayer.
Absolutely.
We often think of prayer as needing words, but prayer can also be those creative activities, especially when we are contemplative.
Well, my bias is actually toward an understanding of prayer as being mostly wordless. I mean, there is intercessory prayer where we ask for things, but if we're talking about really praying, for me, it is about releasing the mind, and I think it's, again, I can't remember the person that said this, but the quote is, "There is nothing like God so much as silence."
Yeah, that was St. Benedict.
Okay.
I just made that up. I don't know.
Well, whoever.
It sounds very Benedictine.
But so the notion, there's a deep connection between the soul, the divine, and silence.
Yeah.
And for me, that's what the contemplative state is, and that's what it invites us into. And that's something, again, that our world is so lacking in and so judgmental of. To sit and be silent is, it's not productive. It's not making money. It's not getting us anywhere.
Yeah.
So it's all involved in this work.
And trying to carve out a time in each day. We used to talk about Sabbath, that you should have a Sabbath each week, a day set apart. And then you should have a Sabbath within each day, an hour set apart. And you should have a Sabbath in each year with a week set apart. It's the setting apart rather than the length of time.
Right.
But if you have that discipline to find that time just to be quiet, to be silent, to pray with or without words, this does tend the soul and does certainly encourage and build the spirit.
Well, what I have found in my work as an artist and as in the soul tending work is that what keeps many people from that commitment is fear. Because when we turn off the noise and we turn down the TV and things that we have been trying to avoid tend to make their way bubble up into our consciousness. And so I really believe that fear keeps many people from allowing themselves to have silence.
And as the angels say throughout the scriptures, don't be afraid. And that's something that we're going to have to get together again and talk about that fear and how we overcome it. Thank you for joining us.
Wow, time's up already?
Yes, it is. My guest has been Yvonne Lucia. We've been talking about soul tending today on our Encounter program. Thank you for being with us. The Broome County Council of Churches makes this program possible through the facilities of WBNG TV and over the air on the radio on WNBF. I'm Jeff Kellam, thanking you for being with us and hoping you'll join us again next week for Encounter. In the meantime, be gentle with people and with yourself.